He made his final journey the way he had lived his life on stage, with dignity, care, and a quiet sense of occasion. Tommy Hunter's funeral day began with a simple but striking sight. A polished hearse arrived to carry his casket, followed by a small line of dark, elegant cars bringing his family and closest friends to the chapel. The casket itself was beautifully crafted, rich wood, soft interior lining, and understated metal details chosen not to show off, but to reflect how precious his life was to those who loved him. It was a homegoing that made clear from the first moment that this was no ordinary farewell. Tommy Hunter, Canada's country gentleman, had passed away peacefully in his sleep at a retirement home in London, Ontario, surrounded by his family and his beloved dog. He was 89 years old. In the days leading up to the funeral, his family chose gentle language when speaking about his death, describing a man who had reached the end of a long road with acceptance and grace. There was no sudden shock, no unresolved drama, just the natural closing of a chapter that had started on March 20, 1937, when a boy in London first picked up a guitar. Inside the chapel, the focus shifted from the cars and the casket to the life that had justified such care. Tommy Hunter's legacy is woven into Canadian television history. 27 years of The Tommy Hunter Show, a program that invited families to sit down every week and share in country music delivered by a host who felt more like a neighbor than a distant celebrity. At the time of its cancellation in 1992, it was the longest-running music program in North America. Long before that, he had been a teenager playing hospitals and movie theaters for whatever they could afford to pay, and a young rhythm guitarist on Country Hoedown who learned how to carry a show from the inside out. One by one, speakers rose to talk about those years. Some remembered his generosity with younger artists, the way he opened his stage to names who would later become giants in country music. Others recalled his habit of lingering at the stage door, talking to fans who had traveled hours just to see him. A colleague described him as a soft-spoken man with a tall presence, someone who commanded the stage but never made the people around him feel small. The expensive casket at the front of the room seemed, in those moments, less like an object and more like a symbol, a carefully chosen vessel for someone who had always treated his audience and his colleagues with respect. Between the stories, the practical details of the day continued quietly. The luxury cars waited outside to take the family from the chapel to the cemetery. Floral arrangements were placed around the casket in colors that echoed the warmth of the wood. At one point, a recording of his own voice filled the room, a song that many in attendance had heard dozens of times before, but which now carried a different weight. Heads bowed, hands were clasped, and the sense of a life fully lived settled over the space. When the service ended, the pallbearers stepped forward and lifted the casket. The hearse door opened, and Tommy Hunter was placed gently inside for the last short drive. The same elegant cars that had brought the family to the chapel formed a small procession behind the hearse, moving slowly through the streets of his hometown. Some people on the sidewalks stopped and watched as the vehicles passed. Others simply heard later that the country gentleman had gone by one final time, carried with honor. At the graveside, the tone remained simple and sincere. A few final words were spoken, thanking him for the years of music, for the careers he helped launch, and for the kindness he showed to ordinary people whose lives would never be broadcast on television. The casket, with all its carefully chosen details, was lowered, and the family stood together in a quiet circle of grief and gratitude. Tommy Hunter, born March 20, 1937, died at 89 in his sleep, in the city that had watched him grow from a boy with a guitar into a national figure. His homegoing in luxury cars and an expensive, dignified casket was not about wealth. It was about honor, a final, visible way of saying that his life had mattered deeply to the people who walked behind him on that last road. Rest in peace, Tommy Hunter. Thank you for watching.